Hey, it's Chris, and I want to say thank you to our veterans, active duty military, and first responders for serving our great nation. Growing up in the 80s, I watched Carson and Letterman. We'll talk about that, plus a look at my social media, and some emails. You're listening to the Chris Carlisle Show, hosted by me, Chris Carlisle. And welcome. Hope you're doing alright. I'm doing okay. Tonight we're going to look at some late night TV shows from back in the day. But first, on my social media on Facebook, the Astros group, blessed to be an Astros fan, posted pictures of three other players outside of Minute Maid Park doing a food drive for MLK Day of Service. Sci-Fi Imaginarium posted two pictures of Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. One from the original Star Wars movie, or Episode 4, A New Hope, and the other is from Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And the caption on it reads, "You know you're getting old when your belt is crept up above your belly button." And there's a post from Larry, Steve, and Rudy, the Gatlin brothers, and it's a picture of them with Crystal Gale. On Twitter, acknowledge me. A tweet from WWE superstar Rhea Ripley, obviously a shot at Roman Reigns. What Happened When tweeted, "Tony Schiavone is using what AEW has learned from WCW's mistakes on the latest episode of the What Happened When podcast." The Houston Astros tweeted birthday wishes to Astros center fielder Kyle Tucker, and there's a picture of him holding the World Series trophy in the World Series parade. And there's a tweet from the man, Becky Lynch, about her steel cage match with Bayley on Monday Night Raw next Monday on USA. And now the mailbox. An email from Prime Video promoting the new supernatural thriller The Rig. Email from Spreaker, speaking of which lets me do this podcast. It's about their Science of a podcast. And the one from the Good News Network is about a 1,000-year-old Viking hall fit for the gods that was unearthed in Denmark. From YouTube creators saying that they've improved the studio app. And one from Ancestry saying I added 50 people to my family tree. I first watched The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson when I lived in Houston in either 1979 or 1980 on their Channel 2, the NBC affiliate. Then after I moved to Rosebud, Texas in 1981, I watched it on Channel 6, the NBC affiliate out of Temple. And then for a while, from 1984 to 87, I watched it on Channel 36 from Austin. Watched it during the week in the summertime or during the holidays, either Christmas or spring break, or on Fridays during the school year. There was the parodies from his comedy troupe, the Johnny Carson Art Players. One they did was a parody of Walter Cronkite's retirement from the CBS Evening News. And a few weeks later, the real Walter Cronkite made an appearance on The Tonight Show. And Johnny did his Karnak the Magnificent bit as well. Doc Severinsen and Tommy Newsom led the NBC Orchestra. Eddie McMahon, of course, was the announcer. And Doc would fill in for Ed when Johnny would have a guest host. And Tommy Newsom would move over to be the band leader. I hardly ever watched the guest hosts. I also watched Late Night with David Letterman, starting in either 84 or 85. I think I might have watched the episode where Sonny and Cher got back together and sang I Got You, Babe. There was Paul Schaefer in The World's Most Dangerous Band, Viewer Mail, and Stupid Pet Tricks. When I wasn't watching Carson, I watched Nightline when Ted Koppel was the anchor, starting in 1981 on Channel 10 in Waco and Channel 24 in Austin. One show they did one night was they broadcast how they would have covered the Normandy invasion or D-Day. Before Letterman, the 11:30 or midnight slot was a show called Tommorow Coast to Coast, hosted by Tom Snyder. I first watched it in Houston in 1980, and also again in 81 after I moved to Rosebud on Channel 6. During the Christmas holidays in 1980, I watched one broadcast where he had some child stars from old TV shows. Then on Channel 6 in the summer of 81, I saw a performance from Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics. Another show was the Midnight Special, which aired at midnight on Saturday on NBC, and was hosted by longtime DJ Wolfman Jack, along with various guest hosts. It was a concert show, and top acts of various genres would perform their biggest hits. I also watched movies and reruns on CBS and ABC. On Channel 10, when we moved to Rosebud, had a dual affiliation with ABC and CBS. At the time was primarily ABC, and then went to CBS in 1983 full time. ABC and CBS had tried their own talk shows, which didn't last long. One of the first shows on Fox was a talk show called Late Show, hosted by Joan Rivers, who had been one of Johnny Carson's guest hosts, and they had a falling out over her leaving. Another show I watched was called Fridays, which aired on Friday. I first saw that in Houston on Channel 13, and then again on Channel 10. Another one was SCTV, which was a Canadian sketch show that aired on NBC starting in 1980. Among its cast included John Candy and Rick Moranis. And there were also some syndicate shows and reruns that I watched on independent channels 26 and 39 in Houston, and Channel 11 in Dallas-Fort Worth, and Channel 42 in Austin. 42 in Austin is now CBS, as is Channel 11 in Fort Worth. One show I watched, I think on Channel 39 in Houston, was a game show called Make Me Laugh that was hosted by the late Bobby Van. On weekends, I watched Saturday Night Live. The first time I saw it was actually on Channel 6 when I was visiting my grandparents in Rosebud. And I, of course, watched it on Channel 2. Back when they had Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Dana Carvey, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Eddie Murphy, Bill Murray, Lorraine Newman, Joe Piscopo, and Gilda Radner. And they showed reruns of the episodes with Chevy Chase during the 1980 actors and 1981 writer strikes. Some of the guest hosts included Christopher Lee, Carrie Fisher, and Elliot Gould, as well as other big names, and they had musical guests playing their latest hits. Some of the sketches included the Coneheads, the impressions of the presidents. Dan Aykroyd did Jimmy Carter. He also did Nixon in a flashback to Watergate. Of course, the show didn't come on until 1975. And also Chevy Chase did Ford. He mocked Ford's tripping incidents. And then there was the newscast Weekend Update with Bill Murray. Some of the anchors on there were Bill Murray, Jane Curtin, Dan Aykroyd, and Chevy Chase. Then I also watched movies and reruns locally on Channel 10, Channel 11 in Houston, and Channel 13 in Houston. On Channel 13, I saw the movie The Hindenburg about the 1937 Hindenburg crash with George C. Scott. On Channel 10, I watched the Western The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach. And I also watched wrestling, the World Class Territory, 2 shows. The territory was out of Dallas-Fort Worth, featured the famous Von Erich brothers and their longtime nemesis, the Fabulous Freebirds. Like I said, they had 2 shows, one which aired locally on Channel 11 in Fort Worth, which was at the time a superstation, or a regional superstation. That was from 1984 to 1988. And then their syndicated show, World Class Championship Wrestling, was on Channel 6 and Channel 36. Another territory was Southwest Championship Wrestling, which later became Texas All-Star Wrestling, and I talked about going to one of their tapings in a previous episode. That was at San Antonio, and that was from 1984 to 86, and I watched on Channel 6 and Channel 36. Watched on Sunday in the summertime and in the holidays, and I would watch sometimes during the school year before I'd go to sleep. Like I said, I went to a taping in Temple. That's on Season 1, Episode 50. You might want to check it out. I also watched the UWF, which was the old Mid-South territory run by Bill Watts. WWE, there was a Saturday Night's Main Event, and then the Channel 6 started showing the Superstars of Wrestling in 1987. On Sundays, when I would be able to watch, stay up late on Sundays, I would watch movies or reruns. In Houston, I saw a movie called Sunshine. Watched it, I fell asleep or went to bed during it. My sister finished watching it. I do remember watching a rerun of the Western TV show The Big Valley, which starred Linda Evans and Lee Majors, along with Barbara Stanwyck, Richard Long, and Peter Breck. It was the episode where Jared Barkley, who was a lawyer, got blinded in an explosion. I saw it again a few years ago. I saw both of them during the Christmas holidays in 1980. One before the holidays, and one before Christmas, and one before New Year's. Well, that's what I remember about watching TV on late night. After I got out of school, some more shows came on. There was a Pat Sajak show, hosted by Wheel of Fortune host Pat Sajak. That was on CBS. That lasted a year from 1989 to 1990. Johnny Carson retired from The Tonight Show in 1992, and he passed away in 2005. Jay Leno took over for the Tonight Show for Johnny, and David Letterman, who was many expected to get the slot, got his own show on CBS called The Late Show in 1993. And Johnny Carson made an appearance on there to rank out the top 10 list. I remember watching it. And Tom Snyder also went to CBS. He got the time slot after Letterman on a show called The Late Late Show, which was kind of like Tommorow. It was a one-on-one interview show rather than having an audience and a band. He hosted it from 1995 to 1999, and he passed in 2007. Other shows were later with Bob Costas on NBC, hosted by sportscaster Bob Costas. ABC found success with the Jimmy Kimmel Live in the early 2000s. That's still on. Like I said, Conan O'Brien took over for Leno after a few years. He'd also taken over for Letterman in 1993. And then he hosted The Tonight Show from 2009 to 2010. And then Leno came back and hosted it from 2010 to 2014. The current host is Jimmy Fallon. He took over in 2014. Like I said, Conan O'Brien took over not only for Leno but also for Letterman on late night. And Jimmy Fallon took over for him in 2009. Seth Meyers took over in 2014. And Stephen Colbert took over in 2015. He took over for The Late Show. Stephen Colbert took over for Letterman on that one in 2015. And The Late Late Show, and he's still the host, by the way. The Late Late Show has Craig Coburn took over for Snyder, and he hosted from 1999 to 2004. Then British comedian Craig Ferguson hosted from 2005 to 2014. And another British comedian, James Corden, is the current host. He took over in 2015, although he plans to leave later in the year. Now, I'll be back again next week to do an episode about the Monday Night Wars between WWE Raw and WCW Monday Nitro. Be sure to leave a like, rating, and review, and check out the website at the-Chris-Carlisle-Show-1.onpodium.com. Until then, I'll see you next time. Hi, I'm Chris, and thank you for listening to my podcast, The Chris Carlisle Show. The Chris Carlisle Show is available on Spreaker. Please leave a like and a review, and also a follow. It's also available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart, Podchaser, and Podcast Addict. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our national anthem.